Welcome, my dear friends. In this video we will discuss the third law of Mendel. This law, also known as law of independent assortment, describes pattern of inheritance of the properties from one generation to next generation in such situation when both parents are heterozygous for both properties and genes that encode these properties located in different pairs of homologous chromosomes, as you can see in this schematic illustration. Under such conditions, expression pattern of these properties in next generation will be like this. As you see here, there will be some organisms where both properties encoded by dominant genes. In other next generation organisms, first property will be encoded by dominant gene, and second property, its expression will be guided by recessive gene. Also, there will be some next generation organisms where first property expressed due to activity of recessive gene and second property is expressed due to activity of the dominant gene. And also there will be some next generation organisms where both properties will be developed due to activity of recessive genes. And proportion between these different possibilities will be 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. And next immediate question, why is it so? The third law of Mendel, or law of independent assortment, tells us that inheritance of the properties encoded by different pairs of allelic genes occurs independently. But this happens only if these pairs of allelic genes located in different pairs of homologous chromosomes. For example, here you see one pair of allelic genes located in one pair of homologous chromosomes, and here is another pair of allelic gene located in totally different pair of homologous chromosomes. Let's look at this situation in more details. Here you see genes or genotype of the parents, first parent and another parent. Let's look at the germ cells which will be produced by both of these parents. And as you already know, inheritance or transfer of genes in one pair of homologous chromosomes into the germ cells will occur independently from transfer of another genes located in another pair of homologous chromosomes into germ cells. According with this, dominant gene A may go to one germ cell and recessive gene A may go into another germ cells. And now, dear students, please look at this dominant gene B. Transfer of dominant gene B occurs independently from the transfer of dominant gene A. That is why dominant gene B may be transferred into the same germ cell as it was for dominant gene A, but dominant gene B also can be transferred into another germ cells which already have recessive gene A. So once again, transfer of dominant gene B into the germ cell occurs independently from the transfer of dominant gene A. And the same will be true for recessive gene B. For example, recessive gene B may be transferred into the cell that is already have dominant gene A. And also because transfer of gene B occurs independently from the transfer of gene A, recessive gene B may be transferred into the same germ cell that already has recessive gene A. Due to this, parent is able to produce 4 different types of germ cells, and second parent also is able to produce same 4 different types of germ cells. In order to show what will be genotype of next generation organism, we have to count different possibilities of combinations between germ cell of one parent and germ cells of another parent. And this is illustrated in this slide. Possible combinations are like this, but this is not all. These combinations are also possible, and this, and this, and even this. So if we will summarize all these possibility for combinations of different germ cells together, we will have such variants of genotype in next generation organisms. So there will be one possibility for combinations that have both dominant gene A and both dominant gene B. Two possibilities when next generation organism has two dominant gene A and one dominant gene B, one recessive gene B. Two possibilities for heterozygous for gene A and dominant homozygous for gene B. 4 possibilities for heterozygous for both genes A and B. 1 possibility for one dominant heterozygous and one recessive heterozygous. 2 possibilities for dominant gene A, recessive gene A, and both recessive gene B. 1 possibility for both recessive genes A and both dominant genes B. 2 possibilities that next generation organism will have combination of both recessive genes A and one dominant gene B and one recessive gene B. And also there will be one possibility that next generation organism, this one, will have both recessive genes A and both recessive allelic genes B. And now when you see different genotypes that may happen in next generation organism due to combination of germ cells, that came from one parent and from another parent, let's think about phenotypes. Let's think about what properties will be developed due to activity of the genes. In all these cases that are highlighted in red color, in all organisms, all next generation organisms that may have one of these possible gene combinations, both properties will be encoded by dominant genes. And if we will summarize these possibilities, it will be 9. In these cases that are highlighted now in red color, all organisms, next generation organisms that will have combination of genes, like you see in this picture, in such organisms, first property will be developed due to activity of the dominant gene, and second property, development of the second property, will be guided by activity of recessive gene. Next, in such situation that is now highlighted in red, you see that all next generation organisms that have these different combinations of genes, in this case, development of first property will be guided by activity of recessive gene, while development of the second property will be guided by activity of the dominant gene, and if we will summarize 1 plus 2, we will have 3. And the last one possibility that is highlighted here in red color, in this case, such organism that received this combination of gene, where both allelic genes A are recessive and both allelic genes B are recessive, in such next generation organism, development of both properties will be guided by expression of recessive gene, and it will be kind of one possibility out of all that we see here. So, proportion of different phenotypes guided by even higher diversity of genotypes will be 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. To summarize, third law of Mendel or law of independent assortment tells us that inheritance of properties encoded by different pairs of allelic genes located in different pairs of homologous chromosomes occurs independently, and expression pattern of the properties in next-generation organisms will be like this. Both properties dominant, one property developed due to activity of dominant gene and other due to activity of recessive gene. Some next-generation organisms will have development of first property guided by recessive gene, while development of the second property will be guided by dominant gene, and some of next-generation organisms will have development of both properties guided by expression of recessive genes. And proportion between these phenotypes will be 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. So now we are done with explanation of the third law of Mendel. I hope it was useful and interesting for you. See you next time in our lectures in biology and genetics.